You can tell a lot about how you've grown as a person by what no longer gets a reaction out of you.
Life taught the lesson. Wisdom made it curve.
I'm Rod Earl, your favorite life lessons coach. Let me tell you a funny yet insightful story. I don't remember exactly when the year was, but my wife and I decided that we wanted to go on a vacation to Washington, D.C. So I've always wanted to go to Washington, D.C., and this was the opportunity for us to go and see all the monuments. I'm kind of a history nerd, so I just couldn't wait to go. So the whole time before I'm looking up, what all the monuments mean and what some of the little tricks and tips and mapping out the way that we're going to walk and all of this stuff, right? So you fast forward to the time that we finally get to the airport. Now, everybody knows you need to be at the airport about 2 hours early before the flight, right? So we get there at the airport 2 hours early, and my wife says, I want some pancakes. I'm like, man, we don't need to get no pancakes, right? So, we need to go through security. We'll just eat something on the other side. We ended up getting some pancakes. So we sit down, I think it was IHOP or something like that, right? So we're eating the pancakes, taking our time. We make our way over to the security line about an hour before the flight leaves. Well, it took us an hour to get through security. So we come out of security running at this point through Atlanta Airport. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Atlanta Airport, but it is humongous. So we're saying, excuse me, bumping into people, getting on the little moving sidewalk, sprinting down the moving sidewalk. None of that mattered, because once we finally got to the gate, they had closed the gate, and we sat there for 15 minutes watching the plane as it left. What should have taken about 2 hours for us to go from Atlanta to DC ended up taking about 6 to 7. So we had to wait on another plane. We get on another plane. This plane takes us to Philadelphia. We have to run through the airport in Philadelphia. And after running through that airport, we then get on this small plane that holds about 30 people. So I'm freaking out because I don't really like getting on planes anyway, because I have this motion sickness thing. But this is a little tiny plane that has less than 3 dozen people on it. And I can literally see the guy standing right outside the window, moving the little blocks away from the wheels, freaking me out. So we fly from Philadelphia over to Virginia, where our airport was and where our hotel was. So we get there, we finally call it a day. We're like, you know what, it's been a long day. We missed the flight. Hey, let's keep going, right? The next morning comes up, and I'm thinking more about looking a certain type of way instead of feeling a certain type of way. And I decided I'm going to put on some Chuck Taylor's All-Stars, and I'm going to walk around the monuments. I don't know if you've ever worn those shoes before, but they are not designed to do anything really, but just stand around in them. So we decide to walk all the monuments slowly but surely. If you've ever been to DC in the summer, you know the pavement is all of 1,000 degrees. We're walking all of the monuments. I have my Chuck Taylors on, and before I know it, I can feel every single rock, every single crack. I can feel everything through these shoes. We're walking, and I develop a blister about a golf ball size on both feet as we're walking. I'm limping at this point, but I didn't complain. We made it through the whole time. We start looking at our phones. She decides, you know what would be great? If we rented a bike and rode the monuments at nighttime. So if you rode them at night, I'm like, man, you get to see them all lit up at night. It's a whole different experience. Cool. So we decide we're going to rent bikes. So we rent the bikes and we start riding nighttime. So if you can keep in mind, this is nighttime in DC. At first, everything was cool. It was the best idea. My feet are getting a break. I'm riding until I realized after about an hour that the seat that I was riding on was rubbing in the exact same spot over and over and over on this bike. So I have now developed a blister on my butt as well as the two on my feet. So we're riding, trying to have fun. This is fun. So we're still riding. Both of us are not complaining, but we're not talking as much. And I don't know if you've ever ridden these bikes in DC, but they have this light on the front of them that's just a beacon to everyone that you are a tourist. So it's just blinking and blinking and blinking and blinking the whole time that we're riding around DC in the dark. And at this time, I realized that the little basket in the front that Adrian had put her shoes in, because remember, she had some blisters as well. So she puts the shoes in the front and was like, oh, this is so much better on my feet. Now there's only one shoe that's still in the basket. So I say, where's your shoe at, right? She's lost a shoe. So we have to stop at this shady-looking convenience store at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, whatever time it was at nighttime, and get some knockoff Crocs that was on the little plastic thing. And she has those shoes now. But now we can't figure out where to take the bikes back. So we want to go take these bikes back, and we can't determine where we need to put them. So we're riding around DC at night with the beacon thing on the lights blinking, with all of the suspicious people that you can think that will be out at 1 o'clock in the morning looking at us as we try to figure out where to put these bikes. We finally found a location to drop the bikes off, but now we have to get back on the train and go back across to Virginia and get to our hotel. So we do that right on the last train that runs. We get off, but now we're walking because the train that drops us off closer has now stopped running. So we're walking about 2 miles and our phones are about to die. So we kind of have to remember whatever the navigation thing says, because this was, of course, before they had all of the power banks. So now we're walking, mind you, with blisters, limping. Adrian has taken her shoes off again, and we're walking down the sidewalk at 1 o'clock in the morning. This long car pulls up right next to me as we're walking and rolls the window down. I have no idea what he's going to ask. So he looks over at me, I look down, and he says, well, how much? And at this time, I realize that the guy is not asking how much it is for me, but he's asking how much is it for my wife as we walk down the sidewalk. Like I said, there's growth, because I just looked at him and kept walking. I don't know if it was the fact that it was 1 o'clock in the morning and I didn't really know where I was at, or if I didn't want to freak out, or I'm not really sure. Maybe it was the 3 blisters I had discovered throughout the day, but I didn't say anything. He let his window up and he kept going, and we walked to the hotel, finally went to sleep. So we get up the next morning to realize that the hotel that we stayed at actually rented the bikes to you for free. We didn't even need to go through that whole fiasco that we had before, because they had the cushy bikes. So we get on these bikes and cool, we're going to go to Arlington Cemetery while we're here. So we get on the bikes, and it took all of 5 minutes or less for me to realize that my bike had 3 of the 18 gears that it's supposed to have, and all 3 of those were hard. So now we're going to Arlington Cemetery, trying to make it up this hill as I'm literally standing on each pedal to try to get it to go up this hill as we're in 95-degree heat. So we ended up just getting off the bikes and walking until we walked into this little side entrance into the cemetery and just sat there staring off into the sky for about 15 minutes. It was so pathetic that it was funny. So we decided, you know what, let's just go back to the room. We're going to just hang out around the hotel, because it's just one thing after another at this point, right? So we're going back to the hotel. There's this long escalator that's about 2-3 stories long, high or whatever, right? We're coming down this escalator with the bikes, And all of a sudden, boom, the whole escalator stops. And we're like, what in the world? I'm looking around, I'm holding my bike, and I turn to my left only to see my wife has now gotten her Croc that she just bought stuck in the escalator. And she's ripped it in half because she can't get it out. But it has stopped the entire escalator for all 150 people that are on it. And everyone's looking at us as we're sitting here with these two bikes and my wife with half a shoe as the culprits. So we now have to walk down the escalator with the bikes, and my wife is now barefoot yet again. We sat on the train looking like I'm not really sure what names you can put out there, but it wasn't good, right? We get back to the hotel and just try to not do anything. So the next day, it was like, okay, you know what? We're just going to take it easy. You know, the universe is working against us right now. It's no problem. We're going to go and let's just go to a food truck. So we go to a food truck. We sit down, enjoying some nice food. Beautiful day. My wife says, hey, you got something in your hair. So I'm like, what? And I put my hand up on my head only to realize that a bird has pooped on my head. We really couldn't do anything at this point but laugh, right? Because it is just one thing after the other. So the bird poops on my head. That was that day. I'm still dealing with 3 blisters. Can't sit down. Can't really walk a lot, but I'm not complaining. We get ready to leave. We get on the plane. We fly back to the Atlanta airport. And my wife says, hey, I need to use the restroom. I'm like, no, it only be a second. Okay, so she goes into the restroom, and I sit out and I wait for about, 20, 30 minutes, and I'm thinking like something must be wrong. So she finally comes out of the restroom, and she is looking extremely dejected and defeated. And I'm like, what's the problem? Like, why are you looking this way? She says, well, when I sit down to use the restroom, my cell phone fell into the toilet and I peed on it. And she spent the last 20 minutes trying to figure out how to get it out of the toilet. And once she got brave enough to do it, she then had to wash it for another 5 minutes. That is the end of that trip. And I say to you again, you can tell a lot about a person, how they've grown based on how they don't react to things that they used to react to. So what are some things that you used to react to that now you don't? This is Rod Earl, Wisdom Curve Podcast. See you all next week.
Life taught the lesson. Wisdom made it curve.